everybody, Joy here. Are you ready for part 4? This isn't really about fitting. I need to show you how I got to view B and view D without cutting out any more patterns. I used the front and the back from view C that I did all of that fitting to, and I used those to make the other views. Okay? No, I did not go in there and put those pieces together and start all over. No, that is not what I did, and that's not what the company does either. The company makes a front, a back, and a sleeve, and then they just chop it up. And that's what we're going to do. But I want to show you, first of all, 2 things, or maybe more. I used the size medium. I thought, since the armholes were so small, if you remember, that maybe I should have used the size large. So I ordered the size large, extra large, extra, extra large. I took the large front and the large back out of there and started working with them. Quickly found out, no, it was just huge. Even though the shoulders were only a 1/4 inch off, it was still, I don't know if they draw the curve different or if because I think it's probably from here to where your arms are hooked on. I think from there to there must be much bigger, because it just, even in the paper, I just said, oh no. Medium was the right size. So, my upper bust, 36, my full bust is 42, and I used the 36 full bust size on the pattern. The 36 full bust size on the pattern. You're not going to find a 36 upper bust on the pattern. There's no such thing. Patterns don't give you upper bust. They only give you full bust, okay? And it turned out great, as you saw. What I want to show you here is how and why the 36 upper bust measurement works. Look up here at the original front. This is the original front. You can see it in the beige paper that came out of the pattern. Look at underneath. I'm actually smaller. This is my pattern underneath with all of those corrections, and I'm actually even smaller than this is. But from my bust down, I'm bigger. Okay? So you can see that it even turned out longer because of the full bust adjustment. A full bust adjustment always makes your pattern longer. So I wanted you to see that. Why do I do all of these fit adjustments that I do? Because this doesn't fit me at all. Even if I had come out here and made the larger size, which is what I thought was going to work, no, it was horrible up here. Now look here, here's the back. Same exact thing. My pattern's underneath it. My pattern is pretty close to the same in the upper back, but not exactly. It's a little bit narrower here, and look how much bigger it is over here. Okay? But this up here worked really good for me, except I still had to take a tuck in this neckline here. So I wanted you to see that. That's why I can't use the pattern that comes out of the envelope. It is never going to work for my body. But it's a good place to start because of the styles. Yes, I can use SureFit designs, and yes, I could make these styles out of SureFit designs, but I need the pattern to see what they did to get the style. Okay? Does that make sense? I'm going to show you now how I figured out what to do to get the other views. Okay? So let me see if I can set up the camera so you can see that a little better. Once I made muslin number 2, I figured out my fit was good. So then I decided to make the different views. I started out with view B. B as in boy. So I pulled out. I thought, what did they do? What's different about view B than view C? And here it is. They just came down. This is two different pieces now in your pattern. This is number 2, this is number 1. But if you put these together, you would have the exact same pattern you started out with for the front. Okay? So we can do that. We're just going to take the front and we're going to make view B. So I traced the front again. I never did use the originals. There's the 2 originals, they're still up there. And I didn't cut up my original fitted pattern either. I traced my white pattern under here. I traced it. Why? Because you are going to cut it up, and you don't want to cut up your original because you can make 10,000 styles if you don't cut it up. So I drew a new one, and I used Dr. Table paper, and I just cut. Hello, I cut it. Don't put pins in your mouth. I added a 3/8 inch seam allowance to this piece right down here, and I added a 3/8 inch seam allowance right here. So I'm going to put the fabric together, and I'm going to sew together these 2 pieces. The first thing I'm going to do is make it back into a whole front and a whole back, because I've cut the front into 2 pieces, I've cut the back into 2 pieces. So when I sew it together, I will simply put it back together, and what do I have? I have the exact same front that I started out with, minus the bottom, because I cut it straight across the bottom. Okay, why didn't I do 5/8 inch? Because I'm going to trim it down or serge it, and it's going to end up 3/8 inch anyway, so why not just start with 3/8 inch? But if you do that, be very, very, very sure you mark it that you made that 3/8 and not 5/8. If you think you'll get confused, make it 5/8 inch. Okay, same thing with the front, and then you can see all the marks I made on it. Front, front, number 4 is the pattern piece I started with. View B, front yoke, and front, just like they did. Now the back, they didn't do it to the back. They left the back the same as view C. I didn't want the back the same. I wanted the back to be like the front. So, hello, it's not rocket science. Fitting is. So I did the same thing to the back. I just measured down how far the front was. I thought, well, okay, fine, I'll make the back come down that far. 3/8 inch seam allowance, 3/8 inch seam allowance. Put the 2 together. After you cut these 2 pieces out, you're going to put the 2 pieces together, sew them together with your sewing machine, and after you do, you'll be right back at piece number 3 again. And this will be blue, and this will be pink, or green and orange, or whatever, okay? But that's how you get the 2 different colors. Very simple, my friends. Now the other one's a little more complicated. This is how you do view B. I'm sure you all can do that without watching me. I did take some pictures, and I'll put some pictures in here in a minute, and then you can look at it more close up, okay? So that's view B. Let me show you this real quick before I show you how I did everything. I pulled out their pattern pieces, 6 and 5, to see how they cut the front apart. And then I just did the same thing, but I did not use these pattern pieces. How did I go from view C to view D without cutting out any more patterns and using my pattern? Something you have to do different for this view is you have to cut a whole front. You have to cut a whole front. Now mine's chopped up, but you have to have a whole front in order to cut out this piece up here. See how simple? How did I decide to cut out this piece? I just looked at what they did, and I didn't even like what they did. They cut theirs out, so it was very, very close here, and it was very, very close to the top there. I made mine, so you can see here, I came down about 1 inch underneath the armhole right here. I came down about 1 inch to cut mine, and then I cut it straight up at the top. Then you have to add your seam allowance. And when you add your seam allowance here, you have to add it just out here in mid-air, because there isn't one there, because you just cut right off the top, right off the top. So you have to add a seam allowance there. So I just looked at what theirs looked like. So let me put this together. You can see my 2 bust darts are in it. Let me put a couple pins in this. Now it's a little strange to sew the concave to the cave, or whatever you call it, the concave to the convex. So make yourself some marks. I didn't have any problems with the fabric. I didn't even put marks on the fabric. I just lined it up because this little piece right here, it matches perfectly with this little piece right here. So let me just pin this quickly on here. 3/8 inch seam allowance again. Thinner seam allowances. A lot of patterns that you buy for knit patterns are only going to have a 1/4 inch seam allowance because knit fabric is a lot easier to sew with a narrower seam. Style Arc patterns. Style Arc, STYLEARC.com. They have 1/4 inch, but they don't come with directions. And if you don't know how to put it together without directions, you're in trouble. So I'm just pinning this together. I'll show it to you in a second. I'm pinning the 3/8 inch seam allowance. It's easier than it looks like it is. Put that all the way over there to match up under the arm. You know, the knit stretches. So it really goes together easy. I didn't have any problem. I just whipped this together. So it's pinned together, and look at it. It's the same thing. It's your front from view C. It's the same exact thing. If you want it straight, there's a straight cutting line on your paper pattern. On your 4 and your 3, there's a straight cutting line down there to cut that curved hem off. So be sure and do that if you don't want to work with that curved hem because it's kind of fussy. A straight one is easy. Unless you're me, I have to go over to the barn with the great big metal yardstick, and I have to take a friction pen, and I have to go stand on a box over there in the barn, and then Jerry goes around and marks me however many inches up from the ground because my hem goes like this. I took a picture of that too. I'll show you that if I can find it. So see? Fun? Oh my goodness, be creative and cut yours completely different. Cut it up a different way, cut it 2 ways. You can cut the front of this up in 5 different pieces if you want to. But any place you cut it apart, you have to sew it back together. So if you cut it apart, add seam allowances. Make some marks so you know how to line them up. So let's see what I did to the back. There wasn't a pattern for the back because they don't do anything to the back. They just leave it the same. Well, my lightning fast mind figured out you can do it to the front, you can do it to the back. So I made a whole back. Number 3, whole back, and I cut the back like I cut the front. So when you pin it back together, you have a whole piece number 3, a back. That's all I did. It was fun, fun, fun. And I was so excited when I saw how it turned out because I really like it. Now, you know you can make your sleeves any color you want to. I tried making mine green on that first blouse, and I didn't have enough green, and so I just thought I'll make them a little smaller. Don't do that. Don't do that. Make the sleeves the actual size you need them. Okay, so I wanted to show you that. Not hard, but remember, keep your original fitted pattern ease. Don't cut it up. Trace it. Put your notches, put your other marks, mark it back, mark it front, mark it whatever. Wherever you make cuts, make little lines where you can make notches to match those places up if you need to. And make your own fun styles. You don't have to have a pattern anymore because you've got yours that already fits you. All right, I think you understand that very well. If you don't, leave me a comment below and I'll try to answer your questions. I am going to show you right here, I'm going to put a series of pictures that I took while I was making these. I'm not even sure if I did it with the fabrics or if I did it with the pattern pieces, but just in case you want to take a picture of it or something, I bet there's a way to take a picture when you're watching a video on YouTube, but I don't know what it is. But since I took them, I'll go ahead and I'll put them right here and I'll narrate them. I'm going to try to narrate this so you can hear me. Notice the hem when I got back from Jerry's barn. I'm not the straightest person on the planet, am I? Half inch off from one side to the other. I have him measure with this big long metal yardstick from the ground up to the same measurement on the sides and center front and center back. Then I come and I try to draw the line as normal as possible to put a hem and mark it. And this is me drawing that view D and using my designing stylus from SureFit Designs. You can use your fashion ruler. It's just a French curve. And what I did, you can see there, is I just made it look like the piece from the pattern. Only I came down lower under the armhole because I needed more room for a seam allowance. But you can see exactly what I did. I pinned it together just to make sure that I was doing it right. The little sliver you see is where I cut the neck down a little bit for myself. Here it is on the floor, the front and the back, and you can see the seam allowance. See, it's not hard. Just come down a little under that armhole. And here I am with it laid out on the dark pink. And you can see how I'm cutting the dark pink, and the light pink has to be different material. Here I've got the two pieces put together, and you can see it worked perfectly. Here's my sleeve. Remember the armhole was too small. I don't think I've shown you the sleeve. Remember the armhole was too small. It was only 17.5 inches. I needed 19 inches. So I had to make my sleeve bigger to fit into my new 19-inch armhole. So I just added over here. I didn't have the large sleeve yet. So I added over here, and I added over here, and then I just cut it straight down the center and spread it out a little bit. So this is now a 19.5 inch. Your sleeve has to be at least a ½ inch longer than your sleeve hole. Your sleeve has to be at least a ½ inch longer because it needs to have some ease. So this sleeve, in fact, that's probably what this ½ inch is right there, was I was adding a ½ inch ease to my 19 inches. Okay? Make your hem match down here at the bottom, whatever you end up with. This sleeve fits me just great now. Remember, if you haven't already added ease, I've added a ton of ease to my pattern ease. Ease. How much extra do you have other than what you need? What do I have here? 8 inches? Ease. If you don't want your pattern to fit you like paint on the wall, when you're doing your measuring, be sure it's bigger than you are. It can't be the exact same measurement as you. And sometimes if it stretches really, really far like this, you can get away with a lot less ease. But even these, if they drape a lot, I like them baggy because I'm baggy. Oh, I hope this all makes sense. Get your fabric out, start cutting out, and have fun, fun, fun. I will cut out another one. I'm going to cut it out in the View D because I really like the way that one turned out. I don't know what I'm going to pick for it, but I have fabrics all over the place here. I have been ordering knits, knits, knits from Girl Charlie, as you know. All right, the next video will be the last, and I will simply show you how I sew it together and how I put the hem in the bottom, how I put the hem in the top, and you'll see me put the sleeves in, hem the sleeves. I think most of you probably don't need that, but just in case you're new and you're learning how to sew as well, I will go into that. I will see you on part 5.